I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Steven Basita, on my podcast, Get It, and we are on the Social Nostra Network. Please make sure that if you're watching us on YouTube, you subscribe, like, comment. On IGTV, please make sure you follow us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, you can listen to us on Pandora, Spotify, Apple iTunes, and pretty much any other streaming service. But we are now in April, and March Madness is over. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about the NBA, the state of basketball, youth basketball, just business, entrepreneurship, especially in sports world, with my brother in arms, Matthew Scott. Welcome, my friend.
What's going on, man? How you guys doing? What's going on?
You got that nice little haircut before we started today?
I'm done with you right now because you know what? You have on a Seattle Seahawks shirt right now, and I'm not really feeling that. So let's go ahead and you got the little juice pouch right there. It's all right.
Protein shake. Yeah, I got a little workout in today with the wifey. And
Hey, that's more than I can say about myself. So you're on the right path.
So I can't go to the gym yet because Talia's today she turned 4 months. So it's April 14th. I had my daughter on December 14th. And because we're still living in the COVID world, I can't go to the gym until she's 6 months old. They don't really want me being overly exposed yet because she's still building up her immune system. So we do little home workouts downstairs in the living room area. And Tara, after she had our daughter, which was through a C-section, she had complications and had to have 2 more surgeries right away. And so she just got cleared to start working out. So she was very excited to start. So we've been doing little 30-minute workouts in the living room every day for this week, and we'll keep it going and get back into shape. My physical strength is good. My endurance is trash, just trash. And we're at an elevation because we live in Denver right now. So
is that much harder? That's what you're saying?
Oh, it's definitely harder when it comes to endurance. If I'm just lifting heavy things, it's not a big deal. But when it actually requires, so today was our endurance workout. It is tough. It is real tough. I had a hard one.
I can't do endurance. So you're one step ahead of me. I'm just like a quick sprint guy.
Yes, I know. I remember.
There we go.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, I beat you in that race
by like 0.01 seconds. It was not.
Hey, man. Hey, a win is a win, man.
I feel like you only won because you kind of like stuck your head out there right away.
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, I know the tactics. Here we go.
That's true. All right, so let's get to it. So starting off with the NBA, we're in the middle of the season right now. Well, we're not in the middle of the season anymore. There's 72 games this year.
Right.
And we are about 52 to 56 games in, depending on the team. So we're getting towards the end here. So let's talk a little about the NBA. Who do you got in the Western Conference Championship, and who do you have in the Eastern Conference Championship, and why?
Okay. Well, first off, you guys know you know specifically that I'm very, very into basketball in general. If you don't follow my page already, Real Matt Scott, you already know what it is. But anyways, that's neither here or there.
No, give it one more time. Give them the Instagram.
Real Matt Scott, real, like I'm very real, guys. And then Matt Scott on Instagram and all social media platforms. So go ahead and follow that page. That's going to be nice. And the 1% brand, you already know. But anyways, getting back to basketball, it's not about me, guys. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about you. And it's about these questions that we're going to go through with the NBA. So the NBA Finals. Okay, so we're jumping all the way to the finals.
Western Conference Finals.
Western Conference Finals. Well, before the other day, I actually thought that the Denver Nuggets were going to be there. But now, considering the ACL on Jamal Murray, you guys follow me on social media or anything like that, Steven, which I know that you do, I've been really high on Jamal Murray since he's came into the league, really since he's been at Kentucky. And so, I think that he's an amazing talent, very skillful. I was probably one of the guys that was online and talking like he was better than Russell Westbrook at the time. Now I know that that's controversial and a lot of y'all don't want to hear that, but I'm still going to make that statement. Very good footwork, and he's a leader, man, and he's younger, so I like him. But I was going to say that the Denver Nuggets were actually going to be there. Now I'm going to go ahead and withdraw that because an ACL tear to Jamal Murray is probably going to set them back a little bit. I don't really see them in the Western Conference Finals yet. Doesn't mean that they can't be successful, but I just don't see them there. So I'll go ahead and go with the Clippers.
Right? Because people that don't maybe understand an ACL tear, that's a major thing. That's a minimum of typically 3 to 6 months that you're out before rehab and physical therapy, depending on if it was, a clean tear or not. But I mean, he's out for 3 months for sure. So that puts you through. I mean, he's out for 3 months just not doing much. So he's out for the season. The ACL tear, that was a season-ending injury. So he's out for the rest of the season. So that will impact things. So go ahead.
Exactly. Thanks for clarifying that. I know I was going a little bit fast. But at the end of the day, I do believe that when it's all said and done, that the Clippers and the Lakers will be in the Western Conference Finals. I think that Rondo was one hell of an acquisition. I think that he gives them exactly what they need because we know that Kawhi Leonard isn't going to lead anybody, guys. He's just going to go out there and just get buckets. So that's cool. That's Kawhi. But Rondo, he's gonna be that guy for them, and it's a toss up for either one. But I think that the Lakers are really, really good right now. I mean, they're the defending champs, and they just signed, Andre Drummond and also Ben McLemore, which I think is a huge acquisition. So I think it's going to be fun.
So I will counter that. I do agree that the Lakers definitely got some smoke. It's going to be, and look, as a defending championship team, I'm definitely going to say that they're going to be in the conference finals. I hate to be the guy that doubts a team that just won a championship. So yes, I agree. I think that the Lakers will be in the Western Conference Finals. However, and you can disagree with me all you want, and I'm not a Utah fan, but Utah Jazz is the number one team in the NBA. They have the best win record right now. The thing that I like about the Utah Jazz, and I think that going back to the NBA has always, especially these last 10 years, it's about matchups. It's always man-to-man defense, who's playing who. Do you have a defender that can shut someone down or at least slow someone down? And going into, Utah's found a lot of success, not because of individuals, but because of how they play as a team. They're selfless with the ball. I mean, you've got 5-6 guys a night that are scoring double digits, which just goes to show that the ball distribution, the teamwork, of course, every team has a couple of superstars, but I feel like the Jazz just do such a great job of really incorporating everybody. And it's just good team basketball. They play a very, European style, I would say. And defensively, they do a really good job of just making it difficult for people to score. Your superstars are going to put up points, right, but they're making it difficult for superstars to put up their season averages. I
definitely agree with that for sure. And not to cut you off, but I do see the U-Haul Jazz that, they are in the running right now and they are running the West Coast, but this team reminds me a lot, and I may be showing my age with this a little bit. I don't know to some of the younger viewers or anything like that, but this specific team, as good as they are offensively and as dominant they are defensively, I believe that this Utah Jazz team actually reminds me a lot of the Hawks when they had Al Horford, when they had Paul Millsap, when they had Joe Johnson, when they had Jeff Teague, and when they went on that crazy run. And I believe that was, don't quote me on this, I think that was 2007.
Right. 2007.
Yeah. And so that team reminds me a lot about that team as far as a regular season success, because that's exactly what they've been. When the playoff comes, you need guys that can demand a lot of attention, and not one person on that team demands the amount of attention like a LeBron James, like a Chris Paul for the Phoenix Suns. I would honestly take Phoenix over them right now, me personally.
Well, I would say first of all, I understand that point, and I don't disagree at that point, although you're young, so don't talk about being old. I know how old I am, and I know how old you are, so let's not make me but what I would say is this. I agree to an extent with you, but when you have a team that can play ball the way that they're playing ball, you do have the advantage of not having to rely on one person like a LeBron James to pull your team through. And not that LeBron hasn't had those moments, but he's also faltered in some of those moments. That's why he's been to so many championships and he hasn't won. I mean, what has he been to? 8 championships now, and he's won 4, 3, right?
LeBron's been to
With Miami.
4. I think he's 4 for 6, or I think he's 4 for 10 right now.
4 for 10. Okay, so he won 2 with Miami. He won 1 at Cleveland. He won 1 at LA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, again, no shade at LeBron. Okay, I respect LeBron. I think he's going to go down as one of the top 5 players to ever play the game. But there's a reason why Michael Jordan is king. 6 for 6. Took a couple of years off, came back and three-peated after he three-peated beforehand. LeBron isn't that level of a killer. Bear with me because I see your face. Bear with me. This is what I'm saying. This is why I think that LeBron's not as young as he used to be. So he can't play the minutes he used to play. And therefore his impact is just going to be a little less. He's going to have more of an impact as a guy on the bench encouraging his guys and helping. But and again, I'm not taking anything away from LeBron. He is a phenomenal athlete. He's done amazing things. I've watched a grit load of his games. He always impresses. This is not any shade at LeBron.
Right.
But if you have a team like Utah, which is so successful at making people have difficulty in being consistent in shooting, you do that to LeBron. We know that LeBron struggles with that. If he isn't hot early on in a game, that first and second quarter, that second half, he doesn't turn it on. Right. He's not a second half guy. If he's not doing well in the first half, the second half is usually, especially now where he's at with his career, he's not coming out and going 10 for 10 for field goals and threes. You know what I'm saying? Like, he struggles a little bit. So if they can make that adjustment, and I think that Utah just does a good job with that anyways. But moving on to the East Coast. Okay. So we always know, like, the West Coast has been dominant the last, 15 years? And so I would assume whoever wins the Western Conference will probably end up winning anyways. But let's get into the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference, my picks are going to be Philly and, of course, Brooklyn. Brooklyn having acquired more superstars. Their starting 5 is a superstar roster. You got, Kevin Durant, and you can't say enough about the guy and how good he is. Kyrie Irving. You've got James Harden. Those 3 alone, I mean, we're talking about 3 superstars, right? And there's 4 and 5 men are all-stars, and guys on their bench are all-stars. Like, a team like that is going to be incredibly challenging to go against. But what else is this? I think Brooklyn takes it. I think Philly's a very good contender. They're a young team with a lot of talent. I think Philly has if they can keep their core group together, I think Philly has a chance in the next couple of years to make it to an NBA Finals. I just don't think anybody's going to stop Brooklyn now. Not with all the trades. You got Blake Griffin, who's an absolute monster down low. And if nothing else, that guy gets a lot of rebounds, and he's just a physical presence. You've got Kevin Durant, who's going to put up 30-plus points in a game. You've got James Harden, who's going to put up 30-plus points a game. Kyrie Irving is an amazing ball handler. And although he likes to score, he's a good ball handler, and he can move the ball. He doesn't have a lot of errors. I mean, people don't get a lot of steals from him. And it's just a roster of all-stars and superstars. You know, it's going to be hard to stop them. Now, when you get into the finals, it's going to depend on who's healthy. I think that the finals is going to go to a game 7. I can't see unless a couple of major guys get hurt. I can't see the game not going to game 7, especially because the West Coast is such a dominant conference in general. And again, you go back to looking at typically when the East Coast, the top 8 teams, usually the 7 and the 8 team both have losing records and are still in the playoffs because 8 from the East go as well as 8 from the West. That's not the case in the West. In the West, every team that goes is above 500. Right now in the East, the bottom 2 teams in that 8 is New York. They're 28 wins, 27 losses. And Charlotte, who's 27 wins and 26 losses. That's very, very tight. And you've got a couple teams that are just below 500 in Indiana and Chicago, but they're not far behind. And so that can change quickly. And so New York and Charlotte really have to work hard on continuing to win at this point. But that bottom, even the bottom 4 in the East, that's going to be just brutal for them because Boston's at 29 and 26, Miami 28 and 26. And then, of course, you've got Charlotte 27-26 and New York at 28-27. So it will be interesting to see, the East Coast, I feel like it's always a little easier for those top 4 teams to kind of get through the first round as opposed to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on, again, healthiness of rosters and stuff. But it will be fun. I'm excited to see. It looks good.
Right.
What's your top 2 here?
I'm thinking that honestly, Brooklyn is a beast, man. I mean, you don't have to, really sleep on them. They're very, very talented, very dynamic, on the offensive end, and very, very good at, creating their own shot. That's the biggest thing. So when you start getting into late game situations and everything like that, then you're definitely going to need those ball handlers. And it always helps to have Kevin Durant in those closing moments as well. So I've got Brooklyn there in the Eastern Conference, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate right now and just kind of, go kind of against the grain right now of what everybody else believes. I believe that Miami will be there again.
Really?
I believe that Miami will be there again. I think that the new acquisition of Victor Oladipo is going to be huge. I think that they've added a lot of size down low as well. Adebayo, if I'm pronouncing his name right, he's a beast down there. He's a beast. And I believe that last year, I think that they win at least 2 games against the Lakers if Dragic was actually in the lineup and they didn't have, Adebayo actually go down, and actually have an injury. They're facing a lot of injuries at that point in time. And so I don't see the Philadelphia 76ers actually being able to get past that physicality and that Pat Riley culture that he's, accumulated down there. And he does it every year, man. And so I'll never count Pat Riley out. I'll never count the Heat out as far as, within the last 2 years that they've actually shown it. They were under the radar last year as well and ended up coming out sweeping teams. So definitely a sleeper. I think that Brooklyn and Miami will be there for sure.
Fun. All right, well, let's get into.
I'm not sold on the Greek Freak though. Just for the record, I'm not sold on the Greek Freak. If anybody is Giannis Antetokounmpo fans or anything like that, I'm not sold on him at all. And I think that he has a long way to go as far as how to carry a team. And I think that he also needs help. Now stats are one thing when it comes down to that. He's an absolute phenomenal athlete and a great player, but there's a different type of atmosphere when, you're in that position of where you have to actually carry a team night in and night out. I think he needs some more help there. And I don't think that the GMs actually did, their best as far as making sure that he was fully equipped to compete this year. So it's interesting.
I agree. All right, well, let's get into college. So first off, everybody's brackets were ruined after the first round.
Exactly.
First round. okay, which has never happened in the time they've been doing these brackets and tracking them online. Second, there have never been so many upsets and double-seeded teams making it to the Sweet 16. Now, all that being said, I was in a bracket with 100 people. I actually finished in the top 10. I didn't finish in the top 3, though, unfortunately, so I lost my money. But I did have Baylor and Gonzaga in my Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had Baylor and Gonzaga in my championship game. I just had Gonzaga winning. And, I will say that I watched the game like everybody else, and I watched, for those who don't know, I'm from Washington State. I was born and raised there for 24 years. Huge Gonzaga fan. And I said it before, I never bet on Gonzaga to win a championship. I never bet on them to, because it's just not going to happen. And this year was my first year betting on them for a lot of reasons. Going into the March Madness, they were undefeated. They had I think they had 26 wins. 25 of those 26 wins were in double digits. Only one game was in single digits, and It was just dominant offensively, defensively. They played a lot of good teams, and a lot of the teams they beat by double digits were in the brackets. And then, of course, they came out in the first round winning by 50 points, and they won most of their games by 20. The UCLA game was the closest they had come to losing, which went into overtime. Phenomenal game. Well, barely won that game. And then, of course, going against Baylor. And Baylor, I watched Baylor lose. So I'd seen Baylor lose earlier in the year. I knew it was possible to beat them. They came in with 2 losses. And I felt like Baylor struggled a little bit in the tournament until the end. They dominated Houston, just dominated them. I was not expecting that kind of a performance. And then, I don't want to use the word dominate because I don't feel like that gives Gonzaga maybe the credit they deserve. However, Baylor did dominate the rebounding. And because of the domination they had on the boards, they did win the game. They won by double digits. Gonzaga struggled on the boards. The physicality of the game seemed to be a bit of a shock to Gonzaga. Baylor was very physical. Defensively, they were super aggressive. Offensively, they were very aggressive. They hit the 3 very well. They crashed the boards on both sides of the court. And because of that, they just, they got what they deserved. They got a national championship. Their coach is amazing. Mark Few with Gonzaga, I think he's really grown as a coach, especially in the last couple of years. I think Gonzaga has a chance to win a national championship possibly next year because their team is very young. However, Baylor's team is also very young. Baylor's losing 3 players. Gonzaga is only losing 2. So they're returning a ton of guys. It's definitely going to be exciting to see what happens next year. But this year was phenomenal. For those who didn't watch, wow, what a absolute crazy college season. What a crazy March Madness. It was super fun to watch. Some of the best basketball I've seen in years. Give me your take.
It was definitely good. It was definitely good. You mentioned one thing that's really exciting to me personally, because I feel like you hit it right on the head when you said and you mentioned about the youth of these teams. That's the biggest thing that you got to start focusing on when you're focusing on college basketball. Me personally, I played at Concordia and everything like that, Concordia University in Irvine, which is NCAA D2, but at the end of the day, college basketball is college basketball. And, you start to really surround yourself with people that know the game and coaches that know the game. And, Mark Few is doing a really good job of developing a great program in general. The whole staff over there at Gonzaga is actually really, really, really good. They do well by the athletes. They do well, the students, the fans. I had, the pleasure of actually coming into contact and experiencing, having a good conversation or actually a good relationship with, one of the freshmen on the team, Dominic Harris. And Dominic Harris went to Pacifica Christian, which is, where I coach.
Yep, I know Dominic Harris. He's a good kid, man.
Yeah, no, he's a great, phenomenal guy, and the whole Harris family in general is, just very high quality and very genuine people. I just, I think that kid has a lot of potential. I think that he has a lot of, he still hasn't even chipped the surface of, how good he can actually be. And, I feel like that program in general will be back next year because they are so young. But to kind of piggyback off of your point as well with Baylor, they absolutely dominated the glass. They dominated. I mean, you can tell that was on the scouting report, and that was like their main focus. Their main focus was rebounding, was defensive rotation, and it was physicality. Those are the three things that they probably went over a lot, chugging guys when they're going through their motion, jumping to the ball, making sure that they hit a guy before they go up into getting a rebound, boxing out properly. These are all the things that a successful program does, and I think that, both teams actually, spoke about it. I think that there was an emphasis on both of it. I think that because of the physical aspect, I believe that Baylor actually was able to, they were a much better. I mean, Baylor was one of the top defenses in the country the whole year round. So it's not like this is something that, was a shocker. That's what they did. What was a shocker, though, is that they were able to do it at that level, at such a high level, and on top of that, be able to shoot at a high level while doing it. I think that if you get a team that's going like that, it's very, very hard to stop somebody like that, especially after coming after a overtime, which was almost a double overtime, like Gonzaga did in the last round against UCLA.
Yeah, and the Pac-12, man, talk about getting slept on. And I always complain about it because the Pac-12 used to be dominant, and I feel like the last 5, 6, maybe even 7 years, they have been getting a lot of that West Coast discrimination to an extent. But look at what the Pac-12 did. UCLA had to play in even to get in, right? And then the Pac-12 went undefeated, all 5 teams. They all won the first round. All 5 won the second round, and then they started to get chipped out. But they also had to play each other too. So you had all these Pac-12 teams, USC, UCLA, Oregon State, Colorado. They all made huge dents, and a lot of them being double-seeded teams, and they still went through the first couple rounds. Kudos to the Pac-12. I think that people are awake now and understanding the Pac-12 is not the conference to sleep on anymore. And they showed that dominance. And especially with, again, UCLA being an 11 seed, making it to the Final Four against Gonzaga. In the Elite Eight, you had UCLA, you had USC, right? You had UCLA, USC, Oregon. Because
those guys. It was Oregon State was in that, I believe. No, I think they got bounced before the. But Oregon State was really good as well. But I mean, just to highlight your point on that, I mean, dude, these guys, the Pac-12 is getting players. They had in the past actually been getting players, but there was a dry spell and there was a drought. Obviously Russell Westbrook, James Harden, all those guys are from out of the Pac West. And then we had a lot of great players out of Arizona as well. So, I said Pac West, sorry. The Pac-12.
Because there was this great group of coaches in the Pac-12, and they started getting hit by other conferences that were paying them more.
Right.
And that was a huge thing too. But looking again to your point, yes, there's now a new revived energy of coaches, of players. Pac-12 is going to be a very dominant conference coming up, especially in the next year with, I would believe, I've said this before, we've been dealing with COVID for over a year now. I feel like, people are going to games. People are getting shots. They've already got 100 million Americans who have been vaccinated. They think they're going to have 200 million Americans vaccinated within the next 30 days. By summer, we should have 300 Americans vaccinated, which, the country's 350 million. So you have 300. You have essentially 80+% of the country, right, vaccinated or close to it. I think we get back to normality, and I think that next year's basketball will be normal again. People will be in the stands, full capacity, and you'll get that energy back, and you'll really get to see how things progress. It'll also be interesting, though, because so many college leagues and whatnot throughout the country didn't play this year.
Right.
And you're going to have this huge jam up now for the next 2-3 years of kids. And all these kids who got free redshirt years. So you're going to see a lot of older guys now. I think that it's going to be very competitive because of what's going to happen. There's going to be this huge jam now of players.
Right.
It's going to be some good basketball for the next few years. I think there's going to be a lot of good options for schools.
Definitely.
I think those smaller, mid-major D1s like Gonzaga is going to have a lot of access to some of those players because there's only so many universities are going to be losing players. It's not like there's thousands and thousands of kids that won't be playing next year.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Definitely. I would say teams to look out for next year for sure. That could be sleepers. As of next year. I would look out for St. Mary's. I would look out for obviously Gonzaga. I mean, they're not a sleeper, but that's still mid-major. A lot of people don't realize that Gonzaga is actually mid-major. It's not a high major school. You know what I'm saying? It's in the WCC, which is a mid-major conference. And so, they're going to be there. And a lot of people act like I'm crazy for this, but, and I may be a little biased, but make sure that you keep out a really, really tight lookout for Pepperdine next year. I have a feeling that they're going to be pretty good. I have a feeling that they're going to have a guy that's coming in, and the coaching staff is doing an amazing job over there.
I love who you're talking about, but it ain't going to be like that.
All right.
I know. All right. But listen, no, I think there will be a lot of good schools that are mid-majors.
Right.
I know that you have a bias towards some of the schools you're talking about for the same reasons that I hope they do well as well. But
right.
I do think that, although I think that there will be some good mid-majors out there, I think it's going to be really competitive in those top Power 5 conferences because they're going to be retaining a lot of their kids. A lot of those rosters were young. And because of this jam up in players, I think they're all going to have access to some really, a lot of 5-star, 4-star kids that they might not. And there's just going to be a plethora of them. Right. So it'll be interesting. It will be very interesting to see how things materialize over the next year. I'm excited. All right, so getting into high school basketball now. And with high school basketball, half the country played a regular season, half the country is behind and just now starting to play. Obviously, there's this whole jam up period because colleges and universities and junior colleges didn't play a season. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have more talent smashed into a small pool because there's going to be so many more people competing for a few spots.
Right.
And, for high school players, this is going to be challenging because a lot of kids that might have played before, I don't know what they will now. You have a lot of good kids, unless they're getting the right exposure. I think you're going to be seeing, it's, like I said, it's going to be a pretty gnarly traffic jam for a little while. But on top of that, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out.
I think so, definitely. I completely agree, but I think that it more highlights more than anything right now for those high school guys that are coming into college. Personally, it's about now it just becomes about who's really putting in the work and who's really studying the game, who's going out of their way to put more hours into the game. Who are those athletes that are actually working on their body, that are eating well, that are working out consistently. Now it comes down to, the preparation aspect of it, because me personally, when I was coming out of high school, I thought that I was a D1, a D1 guy, and technically at that point in time, I wasn't a D1 guy. I was thin, I wasn't, and I didn't have all that much strength. In comparison to a junior college player, when I got into the junior college aspect of it, then I just kind of figured out exactly how physical I was really going to have to be. And so a lot of these high school guys are going to have to, I think that now it's all fast tracked because of that holdup, now you start seeing more guys get those spots that are older, stronger, faster, and have had experience playing the game. And so for a high school guy coming in, they're going to have to really, really hone in on the physical aspect of it and the mental aspect of it as far as getting their body right and also really knowing their games. And that's what we do. We make sure that we, assist other individuals and athletes to make sure that they can perform at the highest level.
So you're competing against people that are doing this as a chance to take care of themselves personally. So you got to think about these things. Are you doing all this stuff to make yourself better, to give yourself the chance or not? Matt, wrap it up for us.
Well, I think that you're right in what you're saying. Everything, I'll stand by that, because, you definitely do need to, do need to get in the work. But more than anything, I feel that the most important aspect of anything in life, basketball included, or you play football or any other sport, it's just about knowing yourself more than anything. It's about knowing yourself, knowing what your tendencies are. If I'm training a guy and he actually is struggling, going a certain type of way or shooting the ball or anything like that. Okay. Yeah, we can work on you becoming a better shooter, or we can work on, what you're struggling with. But a lot of kids don't realize what they actually do well and what they do naturally. And so that naturalness is hard to come by, and you have to be able to, adjust that and know yourself as far as, okay, if I'm going in, for instance, if I'm going into the rim or, going to attack the basket, and my tendency is to pull up for a jumper or pull up for a floater, but I really want to learn how to get to the basket. It's fine to work on getting to the basket, but naturally already your body is already, sorry about that. But naturally already your body is used to, going into a floater before you actually, think about it. So naturally, let's master on that floater, because those are the opportunities that you're actually going to have in order to be successful. So it's just about knowing yourself and knowing exactly what your tendencies are, skill-wise, and then also to know yourself exactly when it comes down to positivity and negativity. How do things affect you in a positive light? How do things affect you in a negative light? And how can you respond to that? So I think that everything that you had said had really summed that up. So, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to go over that. It's really important.
Most definitely. Well, listen, I appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. Everybody, this is Steven Bacito on my podcast, Get It. We're on the Social Nostra Network. Please tune in for more episodes every week. And thank you. My man, take care, and we'll make sure our Instagram handles are on the bottom there for everybody to follow and be part of those journeys. And of course, if you have any questions, you can help either one of us. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.